Hi, Earthlings. How are you today? Um, so it's October 2nd. I looked at the chart for today. We've got the moon in Leo. It's probably, I'm not going to be like a big old astrology thing today on like today's chart, but I am getting my ass kicked right now. And I know some people kind of learn from the astrology, so I'm going to show that at the end. Um, if anybody wants to stick around for it. There was something I'm thinking about, okay? And it's okay. So I'm going to share how just a little part of like what I do when I'm unhappy or not feeling okay, or just kind of, I don't know, I'm going to introduce you to my fucking toolkit. I don't know how it all works in here, but it's something that I've been thinking about, right? Because I feel as though my my approach when I'm reading tarot and looking at the astrology chart is that whoever I'm reading for, they know, right? Like I'm not telling them anything that they don't know, or it's we are finding using like the length. I think of tarot and astrology as kind of languages that I happen to speak, or interpret, that come from the universe. But um I definitely don't consider myself like a fortune teller or a divinator, because there are always endless possibilities, and you can walk away from a reading and completely change the forecast by being armed with knowledge. But I prefer to arm people with their own knowledge of themselves so that they can take that out into the world and do what they know and feel is right, if that makes sense. But sometimes it can get confusing, especially when we're trying to like look at ourselves. That's why I'm always very careful about not getting advice from people, which I've said before. Anyway, so all of that to say, sometimes you're still not going to be happy. Okay. And here's where acceptance, acceptance and surrender are fucking huge. Like they're just huge. Um, I think I totally cut myself off doing any astrology. So really quick, the moon is in Leo. We want to have fun. We could be feeling kind of proud. The moon is going to oppose Jupiter and square Venus. So that it could come across the wrong way, or we could come across somebody who sounds boastful and it's a little bit irritating, right? It's just like, it's like a flaunting kind of energy today. So just be mindful of that. Um, okay, so now that that's out of the way, I think I said I wasn't going to talk about astrology, not that much, but I didn't mean not at all. So, okay, acceptance and surrender. A reading for astrology or anything else that you might use is not going to change other people, okay? And so because I've been thinking about this thing, like you have to change in you. It's not about the reading telling you which job to take or whatever. And all of this, I mean, like, I'm not talking trash about what I do. I'm saying, because I definitely explore stuff like that when I do readings, but it's about you, and the cards are tools to dig in and figure out for yourself what's going on inside. And that's what I love doing. Like it's like you're finding your own answers using the cards. And I get intuitive like messages and stuff like that that comes in handy, comes in really handy. Like that's why I love doing it. Anyway, I got to think but like sometimes people think that a card reading is like the answer, and it's not necessarily the answer. Like you might come to a card reading and still be pissed off, or you might get like your chart read and be and still be upset. There's stuff that you have to do, right? That we have to do, that I had to do. So I'm going to read. This is Alcoholics Anonymous. There we go. And I know, like, even if you're not an alcoholic, whatever, bear with me because I want to read a paragraph that's absolutely beautiful. And I am going to preface this by saying that it talks about God. God, the universe, source, the divine, whatever, a fucking tree, your higher self, your higher wisdom, fill it in, but I'm going to read it because it's beautiful. And acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of my life unacceptable to me. And I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way it is supposed to be at this moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing, happens in God's world by mistake. Until I accept my alcoholism, I could not stay sober. Unless I accept my life completely on life's terms, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world as on what needs to be changed in me and my attitudes. So, alcoholism, job, boyfriend, I like, fill it in. And it's not necessarily about like, well, I mean, alcoholism, clearly I had to stop doing that, like speaking from my perspective, but it's not about just blazing or blasting anything out, right? But it's about acceptance. Like I had to accept my alcoholism. I have to accept I'm in a shitty job. I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about you, I. We have to accept things, okay? Like a big one for me is I don't like that I'm not regularly parenting my kids, but I have to accept that that is the situation that I'm in. And that it is part of it's not a mistake, right? Because when I feel like there's something wrong with that situation, and I'm not perfect, I have moments where I don't like it, where I think it should be different. This sounds really crazy, like really fucking crazy, but it's true for me. When I feel like there's something wrong with that situation, you might think I would be able to change it, okay? But the more I try to change it because I think it's wrong, the more like concretized like it gets, the more solidified that situation gets. Carl Jung said, what you resist persists. The more that I just accept that the situation is as it is for some reason, some bigger divine plan, and I surrender into the way that it is, then it shifts. It's really crazy. Okay. But not like we, I don't want to say that we can't change things on the outside. Like we can, but it's so much easier if we change within, and then things will flow and change on the outside. But it's not until we shift ourselves inside. Um, and almost surrendering into it. I mean, I surrendered into like something that I really thought was totally wrong, like should not be happening wrong. But I was like, okay, this is what it is. I give up. And it actually, my real surrender happened around the time that COVID happened, because I filed something with the court, and it was in March of 2020, and it's been a year and a half, and the court has never written me back. Like they're like, yeah, fuck you, lady. We're not even responding to you, because I'm not a lawyer and I do things wrong. So, but I kind of looked at the universe, and for me, it was like, I give up. I just give up. I've done everything that I can do, and I'm done now. I give up. I get it. Like I've given God, my guides, Larry, the opportunity to move things in my direction if that's what's supposed to happen, and they have not done that. Like I gave, the judge had I've filed other things. The judge could have, if he felt it in his heart or whatever, responded then or done something then, and but it was like once I surrendered into my situation and accepted that it was what it was. Actually, not having my kids is like the perfect thing for this. Once I did that, I was like, all right, so like this is what it is. When I get them, I'm with them. Like that's it, and I fucking enjoy it. Like I enjoy it so much. I plan for it forever. And I just enjoy my time with them so much. Like I don't obsess about changing what the situation is. Um, anyway, I wasn't actually planning to talk about that. That's kind of funny, but it really lends itself perfectly, because like not, um, not everybody has that such situation either. Not everybody is an alcoholic either, but fill in the blank. Like what is it that you don't want to accept, that you're trying to change on the outside? Like, what if you just accept it? Just fucking accept it. I don't know if I can quite convey to you how difficult it was, which is why I didn't do it for like 2.5 years. I was trying to work towards changing the situation with my kids. And it took 2.5 years before I finally like surrendered into what it was. And, I reach out to him all the time. I would change it in a heartbeat, if the money presents itself or whatever, but that's not the case. And I'm happy, like, and they're happy, and they, anyway, it's about acceptance. Okay. And then the other thing that I was thinking about is, I cannot, what's the word I'm looking for? I cannot say, enunciate. No, I cannot. My gosh, I can't think of the word. Convince, whatever, enough that having a ritual, having, even if you don't call it meditation, but like 5 minutes to sit and be, however small it is, there has to be some sort of practice. When I first got sober and I started meditating, I called it self-care. The word meditate didn't, sometimes I feel like that people put too much pressure on that word. That's why like sit and think works too. Because you're going to think, like thoughts are going to come up. I was fucking spinning out in my head when I would sit and meditate, but I still called it meditation and I didn't feel bad about that. I was getting sober and I had so many things that were like coming up to the surface because I hadn't really been thinking clearly for, a while. But having a practice where you really take care of yourself and you stick to it, like it takes discipline to change your life. And discipline was something that I thought for years I didn't have. I just had to find it. Journaling. I'm the reason that I'm kind of bringing this up is because sometimes people will think that like a card reading or an astrology reading or something like that will change their life. And they're really insightful. Don't get me wrong, but change and you can get understanding into yourself, like a deeper understanding into yourself, because it's the process of self-exploration, right? And that's what I like to be with people for. But actual change, like a change in your reality is only going to occur if you change your behavior. And even if that's an incremental change, but it has to be consistent. And that felt really important to me to say, like, it's not easy. Okay. It's not easy. And it's not like you meditate for a month or whatever and your life gets fixed. Like, I've been sober now, so meditating for 4 years, and there are still things where I'm like, holy shit, I don't even have that yet. Like, I don't have that, and I don't know if I ever will, but I'm happy. Okay. It's like there is a peace and an acceptance and a surrender that I have been able to come to, and not with all things and not with all moments, but with more things and more moments than used to previously be. So anyway, I really wanted to share that. I don't know how long, I have no way of knowing how long this is. I'm going to hit pause and then I'm going to show you what's going on with my chart really quick because I'm getting my fucking ass kicked. All right, here we go. So this is just kind of how you do, or how predictive astrology is done. And you likely want to be a little bit familiar with a birth chart if you're watching this, but here's my current situation. So this is my birth chart, we got me born right here. Oops, how do I do that? There we go. Born there in Bermuda, ass first. So my son is down. No, actually, we're going to look at, well, my son is within 4 degrees. So it's kind of involved, but primarily I have Saturn right here in Cancer in the 3rd house at 23 degrees, 14 minutes. I have Jupiter over here in the 12th house at 23 degrees, 43 minutes. Okay. So I was born with Jupiter square Saturn. Excuse me. Currently, okay, so this is where the planets were when I was born. Okay. The green planets on the outside are where they're at right now. So right now we have Mercury over here in Libra. Okay. And I happen to know it's at 24 degrees. 23 today, actually, I think. And right now we have Pluto over here squaring Mercury, like presently in the sky at 24 degrees and like 10 minutes or something like that. Basically, I know because I looked yesterday, they're all within 60 minutes, which is a degree. Okay. So Pluto right now and Mercury retrograding right now are squaring. And what they are doing is they are squaring a square in my birth chart. Okay. So if you look at this, it forms, well, my lines are really bad, but it forms like a grand cross. Okay. And see, look, it's even coming close to, I've got a bunch of squares in my chart, which does not mean that like I'm a square. It actually means I've had a lot of difficulties to get over. It means I was an overzealous soul. But anyway, so a grand cross. So we have Pluto squaring my Jupiter and opposing my Saturn. And then we have Mercury opposing my Jupiter and squaring my Saturn. Okay. So Pluto, I'm going to make this really basic, but I'm in a mind fuck, like a big time mind fuck right now, especially because Saturn is over here in my third house, which does rule your mind and your immediate surroundings, kind of like your neighborhood, the people that you see every day, who you interact with, what you think on a daily basis, basically like my daily life. And then we have Jupiter over here in the 12th house, which is solitude, our connection to spirit, also escapism and self-undoing. Jupiter is about learning, expanding knowledge-wise, but Jupiter also kind of like blows things up. It's an expansive energy. So this energy is just like bigger. Mercury is the mind, right? Saturn is restriction, authority, feeling confined or constricted. That's why my daily schedule has always felt like a struggle. Like I have a hard time getting everything done. I feel like I have to get done. I have Saturn in the third house in my birth chart. But anyway, and then Pluto is our subconscious thoughts. It's about power and control, who controls me. So Pluto opposing Saturn is kind of a big deal. And that's been going on for the better part of a year. But with this whole thing going on, I'll just describe to you how I have felt. I've been fucking ornery. I don't want anybody telling me anything. Like, and I'm cognizant of all this, so a lot of it doesn't manifest into reality. In fact, I can laugh at it a little bit, but I'd be a liar if I said it wasn't a bit of a struggle. You know, my mind is racing. I feel like I feel like I can't learn enough or I can't understand enough. And that's kind of this Mercury opposite Jupiter. I feel like my mind wants to understand, and everything feels too big to understand, right? I do just have a lot going on in my life right now that I can't wrap my head around. I feel like there are, like with Saturn, I feel like there are parameters or like rules that I have to abide by. But and I don't want to, like I don't want to. So I'm trying to, and then when I do think of abiding by them, I'm like, well, how do I get by this one and this one and this one and this? It's just a lot of things are interplaying together. And then Pluto being the subconscious, like what are my limiting beliefs? And that's really what I am dealing with. And I think that's might be kind of the most difficult planet in this whole thing right now. But where am I limiting myself? Like, where do I not feel like I deserve something? So I'm teasing out Pluto and Saturn. I'm teasing out actual constrictions, and then constrictions that exist only in my mind. I'm gonna stop sharing. So anyway, I just, and the funny thing is, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to my chart, but yesterday I was like, what the fuck? Like, and then I have a general idea of where the planets are. I just try not to obsess over my chart. And I'm really good at that because I'm so busy, but I was in such a mood last night and yesterday that I'm like, okay, something is really going on. Like, and I figured it was Pluto and Mercury, but when I looked, I'm like, oh my gosh, all four of those planets are within 60 minutes. So it's like I feel like I'm in a vice. It's crazy. And I only have like, oh, well, a few more days to a week. Today is the height of it. And then it should start easing up 2 days, after tomorrow, it's still going to be a little tight. And then anyway, it's going to be active in general for a while. And then after retrograde, Mercury will come back and I'll be dealing with Mercury, lighting up the whole Grand Cross thing in another, probably 3 weeks or so, 3 or 4 weeks. Anyway, that's my deal. And I figured I would share that for anybody who's learning. I hope you have a great day on Earth. I hope you enjoyed that. If you stuck around anyway, peace. Namaste.